Hey y'all, my name is Jasmine Jones. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and you are now watching Black Girl Therapists in the Wild. And this is a little show I like to call Therapist Sips and Reviews. And today we are reviewing Abbott Elementary Season 3, Episode 4, Smoking. And we are sipping on some, what was it? Like cranberry, mango, and vodka. Yes. How y'all doing? So, this episode kind of feels like a filler episode, but there were some key things in there. First of all, it kind of showed how we're inept as a society and teaching kids about drugs and why they shouldn't use drugs as children. And also, white tokenism. That shit was hilarious. Jessica. Anyway, so yeah. We start the episode off where, like, there's a fire alarm at the school and the fire trucks have to come and all this other stuff. And come to find out, this is a little boy that was smoking in the bathroom. And he had got, like, this cigarette from some dude off the street selling cigarettes one at a time. I don't know. He just said he got it from some dude around the corner that sold him one cigarette for $1. And, kudos to Melissa. She got a little flirt on with the fireman. That might be something. This is the second time, I think, on the show. So, that might turn into something. But anyways, so now the teachers are in the teaching lounge. They don't know what to do with this kid that's been smoking on the campus. And they start talking about all the shit that they be doing. And the thing is that they're talking about smoke, because this shit pissed me off. I might go on a rant about this. I don't care. It was a pretty concise episode, so I can rant about some stuff. So they were like, why is he smoking cigarettes? That's like, who smokes cigarettes? I think it's just because they didn't want him to be doing something that could get him high, because they trying to keep the show wholesome and shit. Because then it would have been a whole thing about now he's high because he was in the bathroom smoking weed, and so it would have been a thing. And so he tried a little cigarette. He didn't like it. It tasted nasty. There you go. Anyways, then they're like, why are you smoking a cigarette? And then, being judgy and stuff like that. And then Jacob's being all judgy, like, oh my gosh, cigarettes are bad. And then Janine's like, well, Jacob, you vape. Like, that's nicotine. What are you talking about? And this nigga Jacob, because this is a television show, and I doubt they're going to turn this into a thing, but in real life, you just put this bitch at risk to get fired. How you gonna call a bitch out for smoking marijuana in the middle of her fucking job, in front of her boss, or one of the supervisors that was her boss, whatever the fuck, the principal. So because she said you vape, which is legal and not federally against the law, you popped off and was like, well, you smoke a joint every night, and she just was looking around, and everybody's going off on what they do, and it turns into nothing. But in real life, I think, aren't teachers federal employees? In real life, marijuana is still legal federally. And so if your place of employment is, getting federal funding, and the workers there are doing marijuana, you could get fired. So the schools get federal funding from the government to run. And so in reality, like for me, like, I'm a licensed therapist. My license comes from the federal government. And so if they ever found out that I did marijuana or some shit, I could lose my therapist license. There's a potentiality that I could lose that. So in real life, if this had happened, you just threw this bitch under the bus in front of her boss. She could have easily been drug tested and fired the same fucking day. What the fuck is wrong with this white? I'm tired. And then as I watch the show, I'm realizing that, like, they've turned these white people into tokens and caricatures of themselves. Like, white people do black people when they put them in shows, and they turn us into caricatures, like, the loud and the attitude and the extra slang words that don't make sense and everything like that. They're doing that to the white people, and I love it. I do indeed. And I'm just like, got this bitch that's subbing. Her name is Jessica. And, Janine is just so horrified about this woman's teaching abilities and all sorts of things. And she's just, Janine's anxious and she doesn't have great boundaries. So she still has some healing to do. So, I see why her and Gregory, they got to work on themselves a little bit to figure themselves out before they get together. But anyways, she doesn't have great boundaries. So she's peeking in the window like some creep, of her classroom and shit. She can't let go. She can't let people just do their job. She has to intrude on how this woman is teaching the class, all this other stuff. But the thing that was funny to me was at the end after Janine talked to Barbara about like how she doesn't like Jessica, because Jessica basically read her for filth and was like, girl, I don't need your help. If I need it, I'll ask, but I won't need it, so leave me alone. And Janine is just like, well, yeah, that's how a boundary is set. But Jessica can set boundaries because she's a white woman and she lives in the privileged land, and she's not even. Janine apologized to Jessica after talking to Barbara. And the funny thing was that Jessica hadn't even clocked her conversation with Janine. Because Janine is not the center of her world like we make white people the center of ours. Now, you can say Janine has anxiety, so anybody that crosses her path, that triggers her, she'll make them the center of her world in that moment. But there was too much white shenanigans going on in this episode, so we're just going to say it's a centering around whiteness and caring about what white people think and all this other stuff. Because that happens. We do that often. And this was a great example of how these people don't center us. They don't care about what we're going through. They aren't seeing us. She didn't even clock that Janine was mad at her. She was just like, look at this little fly buzzing around me. Janine is looking at her like she's a shark. This woman is looking at her like she's a gnat. That's what I'm talking about. So I thought that was like a great representation of that. I don't care. And so, they all are in a teacher's lounge talking about all the drugs that they be doing and stuff. And it's like simple shit like marijuana and hookah and shit like that, and microdosing and, CBD oil. And some little child is, of course, filming them at the door. I have absolutely no idea why they leave the teacher's lounge door open. When I was in school, elementary through high school, every school I've been in, I never remember the teacher's lounge door being open like that, just on a regular basis. It was always this mysterious place that the teachers went into and we never knew what happened. And so I don't know why they just leave the door open like that. That's so weird to me, because when I was growing up in school, it was just like you didn't go in the teacher's lounge. You didn't know what was going on in the teacher's lounge. And the younger you were, like in elementary school, you made up stories with your friends about the magical things that you did in the teacher's lounge. But by high school, you just figured out like adults are the same as kids. And so they're probably not doing anything in there. So no one really cared, but the door still stayed closed. The teacher's lounge door was never open like they leave it on this show. So I don't know why they do that. But anyways, the kid films them. They see the kid filming them. They chase the kid down. The kid has already posted this. Once again, in real life, if that had happened, they would have all been drug tested and fired. Like all them teachers, because that post would have went viral, because you got a bunch of teachers sitting in the teacher's lounge talking about all the drugs that they do, even if it's simple stuff that they won't affect their ability to work. It doesn't matter. They would have all been fired. So I'm just like, okay, we're gonna pretend okay. So they run off to get the kid. He already said, oh, well, I posted it already. So now they forget basically about the kid with the cigarette. And now they're worried about their students like bagging on them and shit because they smoke a little weed and do this and that. And the kids are talking shit about them in class. Like this little girl in Barbara's class, she was like, Miss Barbara, I don't know her last name, but Miss Barbara, because she was drinking from her little Stanley cup or whatever them things is called. And she was like, is that the Pinot Grigio? The Pinot Grigio? Whatever, however she said it. I was just like, that's so cute. How you know what Pinot Grigio is, honey? Did some sixth grader say something? And so, like, she's upset. She goes to the teacher's lounge. They all decide to bring Fade back into the school to talk to the students about drugs. This shit was just some So Fade now has this new white dude that's up here acting black, and it's just glaringly like, this is how black folks and people of color see you, white people, as these weird ass caricatures of human beings that don't care about anything but yourselves. And you don't care about how other people feel. You don't care about what other people are going through that don't look like you. Like, that's why when he was on stage and he said everything's going okay, that white girl in the back said everything, you're right, they see each other, we are connected, and it's not all white people. There was a white teacher in the back, standing against the wall, some white dude, and he looked at the white girl like she was crazy, and it was like, whatever. But like, this is how we see y'all, like, as some weird caricatures of human beings. As like these people that are gonna like flip at any moment, and we don't know what they're gonna do or how they're gonna feel, and they have absolutely no connection to reality or what's happening to people of color or anything like that. Like, they just don't care. They're living in their own little fanciful, privileged fairy world, and it's upsetting, but it is funny to watch it on television. So anyways, this dude is up on there doing some weird ass, I think it was spoken word. And then this, like, I think she was Indian or something. Just Indian lady came on with the most blandest voice in all the land. I don't know what the fuck was going on there. She was telling them, like, she was trying to tell the kids, like, it's not okay to do drugs. Like, we don't need to do drugs at all. And the kids are like, well, my grandma eats edibles for glaucoma. So the thing is like, they're illustrating how we need to reword how we explain drugs to kids at this point, because a lot of things that were illegal completely when we were young are not illegal anymore. And research studies have shown that these drugs are actually helpful to people's mental health and to people's physical health and all those other things. And so now the kids are confused because they think that, oh, well, everyone says it's okay to do it, so why can't I do it? So we're not explaining it in a good way, because, like, now you got kids who are curious to try shit because everyone is like doing it, but then you got people over here telling them that they can't do it, so they're going to want to do it even more. There are different ways you can explain drugs to kids. I have clients that have told me that they do marijuana and things like that, and they'll be like teenagers and shit. I don't think I've had anyone younger than a teenager tell me that. And I'm not going to judge them. Like, I'm just be like, well, marijuana is great for depression and anxiety and sleep and things like that. But when you're below a certain age and your brain and body is still growing, like, it actually can cause problems with your growth, like in your brain. It can kill your brain cells as they're growing. Once they're grown, they're there, but as they're growing, you're killing off fresh brain cells that are trying to grow. And so, like, stuff like that. So just take notice, because that is confidential. I'm not going to tell their parents. It's not one of the three things. If they've harmed themselves, harmed someone else, or are experiencing abuse. So I am not mandated, and so that's confidential. So I would just say, just notice if you feel sluggish, if you feel like you have a lack of motivation, if it's not helping with like your depression or anxiety, but it's actually making it worse. Because just like any substance we can be allergic to marijuana, to where it actually works in the reverse and makes us feel worse than we were supposed to feel before. It makes us feel worse. It actually makes the depression and anxiety worse. And so for some folks, it reacts to where it makes it better. And for some folks, it reacts to where it makes it worse. And so you have to gauge how it's reacting in you. And also, if you have a susceptibility in your family genetically for psychosis disorders like schizophrenia, bipolar, things like that, you may have the genetic marker in your DNA for those things, and marijuana could turn that genetic marker on. And so then now you have schizophrenia or some other psychosis type of disorder. And so, like, if your great auntie, or maybe not even that far back, but if your auntie or your uncle or your cousin or your mom or your dad or one of your siblings has some kind of psychosis disorder where they see things, hear things, feel things on their skin that no one else can see, hear, or feel, you are susceptible to getting that if you smoke marijuana. So those are things I tell kids. And then I let them decide for themselves, and then I haven't had like kids younger than teenagers that I've had to talk to about drugs like that. But for a kid younger than a teenager, I would just say, like, when I was little, like, my mom would tell me coffee stunts your growth. So if you drink coffee, you're not going to be tall. Like marijuana, you can make up some shit, or you can just tell them the truth. Marijuana could make your brain not do right because it's trying to grow and you're putting in a substance that might stop it from growing right. You could just say it like that. And kids get shit like that. Just tell the truth. And so that's why adults are the only ones that can do these substances. And then when we get into the deeper substances like crack or heroin, there are other substances that are really intense and can cause things like addiction, which means that you want it so bad that you don't care if it makes you sick. You don't care if it makes your teeth fall out. You don't care if you feel bugs underneath your skin, and so you're picking your skin all the time. The drug has hypnotized you to want it. That's how you could explain it. And so there are some drugs that will hypnotize you to want it so much all the time to the point where you make yourself sick. And so those are things that kids and adults shouldn't be doing, And so, like, no one should be doing crack. I don't care what you say. There are probably certain chemicals and enzymes that you can extract from crack or cocaine that you could put into a medication and it might help with something or other. It's an opiate. So, but crack and cocaine by itself, nobody should be doing that. I don't care. Now there are people that do cocaine. I've had clients that do cocaine and don't get addicted and just do it for partying purposes and things like that. But not everybody, the majority of people aren't like that. The majority of people get attracted to it. So when you're talking to a kid, are addicted to it. So when you're talking to a kid, I would just say that, like, nobody should be doing crack or cocaine. Like, but if they are, like, if they're a kid, you should probably, talk to them and see if you can help them. But if not, probably talk to an adult about it. Most likely talk to an adult more so. And if they're an adult, well, that's, adults don't have authorities over them like kids do. And so they feel like they can do anything they want to do. And so, you can't tell an adult what to do, basically, because you're not an authority over an adult. So you just got to let them do what they do and don't judge them and just let them live their lives. And so, there's there's probably a better way to say that. I'm feeling myself right now. So, but there's better ways to say it than what they were saying on the television, because y'all up here telling these kids don't do it, but you're not telling them why. And kids want to know why, because they're people, they're human beings, and all human beings want to know why you're telling me not to do something. And you're not giving them good explanations, because then we go home and see grandma eating her edibles for her glaucoma, and you're like 7. And you're sitting there seeing her eating her edibles, and her edibles look like cookies and gummy candies and shit. And, they pop an edible and they just sit up there high, and because nobody explained why they weren't supposed to take it. I'm sure that child's grandmother explained to her why she wasn't supposed to take the grandma's edibles, because she said it was for her glaucoma. And so that helped the child understand that this was not for her. It's grandma's medicine. And you don't mess with grandma's medicine. And it is what it is. My grandma took a lot of medicine. I didn't mess with her medicine. And so then they doing locker. This is all in one day of school. They had Fade come, and then they did locker searches. They're doing all this extra shit. And then they realized that they didn't ask the kid why he took the cigarette, or if he's been smoking with cigarettes this whole time or anything. And like Jacob's like, he's the nicest kid. I don't understand why he would do that. He irritates me. He could have got this bitch fired. I'm done with Jacob at this point. He said that shit immediately. She does marijuana every day. I'm just like, Janine, Jacob is an op. He is not your fucking friend. I don't care how nice he may seem or whatever, but you could have ended up fired. You could have ended up without a job, because this nigga blasted you in front of fucking everybody. And no, this is not about, but I know my people and blah, blah, blah. These are my friends. No, this is work, bitch. Now your boss knows you do edibles, bitch. it's a hierarchical situation that if anybody gets too emotional or triggered, they can use that shit against you. That's what I mean. And that's what he did in that situation. He used that shit against her. I don't trust that nigga. That nigga's an op at this point. I was like, oh, well, maybe he's comic relief. He's just the white token. He's the I tried, but now he's an op. Fuck that nigga. Let me be at work and we sitting in a meeting and we talking about like ways to help the children not do drugs, and we talking about how cigarettes is this, that. And yeah, you vape. Vaping is legal. Vaping is nicotine oil and shit. Like, why would you then jump up as if to one up me and get back at me by pointing at me and saying I smoke marijuana every day in a federally funded job, a federally funded building? That motherfucking white boy is an op. I wouldn't tell him shit else. But see, people don't be clocking shit like that. Like, just because you clock that people got some like fucked up like ways and shit doesn't mean you have to go no contact and cut them off. No. What I like to do is we do this activity in therapy. It's called the circle of trust, right? So you get a bullseye. So the little circle in the middle, the big circle, and it gets bigger and shit. In the very small circle in the middle is your closest friends and family members. So the people you trust the most, they've shown up for you, shown out for you all the time. You know they're always going to be there, right? So yeah, it's not a lot of people in that little circle. You're not supposed to have 15 close friends, because what happens is if you have 15 close friends, you start to lose track of people's intentions because everybody's an individual and everybody has shit going on in their lives. And then they bring that to the friendship group. And then now there's a big ass mess because Ron is fucking Sharon and Sharon is fucking Stacy, and they all fighting and you didn't even know what was happening, and now you find out and now they're mad at you because you knew the secrets. And no, we're not doing that. We need 2 or 3 close friends and maybe a 2 or 3 very close family members. We don't need 15 of these people. And so you have those people inside your small circle, and then the outside circle, the next circle, the second smallest circle is your fun friends and your acquaintances. These are people that you know, like you can hang out with, you can have fun with, you can do chit chat shit with, but you can't trust them with everything. And you're not going to hang out with them in certain ways all the time because you can't trust them with everything. And that's what I like to do. Sometimes people stay in the circle of trust, the small circle. Sometimes people get moved out of it because they do shit and it's a pattern of shit that they've been doing. And okay, now you get to be removed. And then some people can be brought in. Jacob is outside in the acquaintance circle. Outside of that is the co-workers and, you know, like the people, the co-workers, and like your doctor and like your lawyer and the outside people you socialize with that provide you services or like you work with or whatever. And then outside of that is like the cashier at the grocery store, like that you see all the time when you go to the grocery store. You don't know them, but like they're a part of the community that you see all the time. Jacob would, like for me, Jacob would be outside in that this is now a co-worker. He ain't even acquaintance or fun friend. This is now a coworker. Now, will I still hang out with him like he's an acquaintance or a fun friend? Yes. You just talk to them differently now. Now it's very much fair weather talk and me listening to him drone on and on about his dumb shit that I don't care about. And then I'm not hanging out with you as much. Will he notice? It depends on how you finesse it. But inside, you know, this nigga is not my friend. I just need to maintain this camaraderie just to keep an eye on this motherfucker before he go off and tell this, because I already told him a bunch of shit. But if you start off knowing who's who, you don't have to hang out with these niggas like that if you don't want to. Anyways, he's an op. Jacob's a fucking op. Fuck that motherfucker. I've been saying this since season 1. I don't like him, but you know, whatever. Like, they try to keep this wholesome and shit, but it's like you got some undercurrents of things here that you can turn into like drama if you wanted to. But like, I see that they've been steering away from the deep drama, the dramaticness of it all. Like every season you think some really dramatic shit is gonna happen, but it doesn't. Like the only dramatic thing that happened last season was Gregory and Janine telling each other that they like each other and shit, like, and The other season when the school almost got charter school, but it didn't get charter school. Like they ain't trying to go deep. It's Disney. They trying to be cute. It's whatever. But like in real life, nah, that nigga wouldn't be around me. Fuck Jacob. Because that's what white people do. That's what white people do. They cozy up to you. They ad nauseum mention how they're woke and they believe in black stuff and Black Lives Matter and all this random shit. If you have to repeat it over and over and over again, that means that no, you don't believe in that shit. You just feel guilty that you're going to be seen eventually. So you think that you have to repeat it over and over again so people will know that no, I'm for the people. No, you're not. No, you're not. Because if you're for the people, you don't have to say it. You just embody it. The things you are, you embody. You don't have to repeat them over and over ad nauseum all the time, bringing up random shit, dropping little, not even gems, just little pieces of shit here and there about how this is racism and blah. Why are you talking to me? You are what you embody. Jacob embodies somebody that's fake, somebody that's conniving, somebody that if they're backed into a corner, they'll tell all your fucking secrets. He's gossipy. I wouldn't trust him with shit, not even a little bit. And they've all made him their little token white friend. And like, he's doing shit that in real life would have got Janine fired. Like, what would have happened is because all the coworkers are in one room with the boss, and this nigga called her out as a marijuana user at a federal job. And what would have had to have happened then is that she would have had to been sent to a place to get a drug test. And if it came back positive, she would have lost her fucking job. She would have lost her fellowship at the district. Everything would have been gone. She would have had to start over. And that would have been on like her stuff, like when she tried to get a new job. That would have been on her shit. They would have found, because that's the school district trying to be a teacher. That's a close-knit community in any city, any state, and people would have known that she got fired for using drugs, and she would have been blacklisted, and some bullshit would have happened. That's the type of shit I mean. That nigga is an op. So, anyways, they sitting in the room. Like Gregory calls the kid to the room with Melissa. And Melissa going on about how she was a young smoker and all this other shit. And I'm just like, girl, I think you grew up in an abusive household and you don't really know that you grew up in an abusive household, like emotionally abusive at the very least. Cause like the shit you be talking about, like, I don't think that's normal. You shouldn't be so defensive and so like in your face all the time. Like that's a trauma response usually. Like people like that, we take like, Dr. Joy DeGruy said it. We take trauma and turn it into culture because that's how we deal with trauma as a group of people. Like black people didn't eat chitlins like that. We ate chitlins because they gave us the bad part of the pig. But look at us still eating chitlins to this fucking day. We don't need that. We call it culture. We don't need to eat it. You know, I like to focus on the parts of culture that didn't necessarily come from trauma, you know, or even if it did come from trauma, we made it into something beautiful. Not necessarily the parts of culture that like involve beating your children and, you know, eating pig intestines. And I saw this place the other day, like some soul food places do this. It's not all, but some. And they were selling chitlins. And I was just like, nah, like even if I did eat chitlins, I'm not eating chitlins from nowhere but from my family because I sat in the house. I watched them clean that fucking shit off the intestines. I know exactly how long it took, and I know that they cleaned it well. I don't know them niggas. I don't know how well they cleaned that, and if there is even a minuscule particle of shit in that, if I ate chitlins, it would just turn my whole soul inside out. Like, I just can't. I just don't know how people can serve chitlins as fast food. That's just like something you just do in your family. Like, I couldn't trust no fast food chitlins. That's fucking nasty. Like, how well did you clean that? As bad as we know how fast food workers be working sometimes and don't be washing their hands and be taking shortcuts and shit like that, you really want to trust some chitlins from fast food, even a soul food spot. Like, everything else will be good probably, but like, I just wouldn't eat the chitlins. I'm not doing that. So, we take trauma and turn it into culture. So we don't have to do that. And so they sitting there with this child and they just like, oh, so why did you smoke the cigarette? And da da da. He was just like, oh no, I was just curious. Like, the dude offered me I'm glad the dude only offered him a cigarette and didn't try to like touch him. Or why are you, my concern is, why are you talking to fucking strangers? That would be my concern, because he's a child. Just like Gregory said, you're a kid. Everyone makes mistakes. Right. He's a kid and he didn't like the taste. I remember when I was 11 and my mom was a smoker, and like, I wanted to see what the big deal was, because I keep seeing all these commercials with these burnt lungs and all this other shit hanging out and all this. And I'm just like, why would you do something that like burns your lungs up? I'm curious. So like one day when she was gone, I took one of her cigarettes and I took one puff and just started coughing everything up. And I was just like, this hurts everything in my chest and throat. I don't think I would like to do this anymore. And I hid that shit under my bed. She found that shit one day while she was cleaning my room. And like, she fucking tore the shit. She was like, did you smoke this? Did you smoke? And I was just like, no. And she was like, yes, you did. There, see, the end is burned a little. I was just like, I don't know why it's like that. I just lit it. I didn't smoke it. I just puffed. I just puffed it. I didn't inhale. What did Clinton say? I didn't inhale. Stupid motherfucker. So like, I get it. He's a kid, but like, why the fuck is you talking to strangers? You big enough to know not to talk. That man could have kidnapped that child. That man could have did anything to that child. And I'm just like, if I was that child's mother, that's what I would be mad about. I'd be like, well, you know not to do that again because it was gross, right? Right. So why are you talking to strangers? Anything could have happened to you, child. I told you about stranger danger. Why are you talking to strangers on the street that you do not know and taking substances from these strangers? That cigarette could have been laced with fentanyl. You know they've been lacing shit with fentanyl, like, especially like marijuana and shit. Like when you buy it on the street now, you can't even buy it on the street no more because people been lacing it with fentanyl. I've had clients talking to me about how they friends was eating edibles from off the street and stuff that they bought from a friend at school, and you know, had a whole like it had fentanyl in it. They had to be rushed to the hospital and shit. Like, a little crumb of fentanyl will kill you. I would just be looking at that child and just be like, why would you do that? Why would you do that? So that's what I would be mad about. But, you know, so they just tell the child, like, you know, we understand and don't do it again. And we're going to try to get rid of the suspension. And he was just so sweet. He was just like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. And they're like, it's okay, honey. And he was like, was Fade my fault? And Melissa was like, Fade's the government's fault. I was like, yes, it is. It's like Dare. Like, what the fuck was that? You can't just tell kids not to do substances and then not tell them why. Now, I can't remember Dare talking about like the physical repercussions of these substances, but they exaggerated a lot of shit. Like them commercials about marijuana. This is your brain on weed. And it was like scrambled eggs and shit. And it's just like, okay, you're not really telling the truth. You're not telling the truth of what this substance does. Like, it doesn't do all of that. Like, no, it doesn't scramble your brains. And so, like, this needs to be worked on. I thought it was funny that Barbara was like, the ganja, the devil's weed. And I'm like, girl, ain't you from Jamaica? No, and she's from Jamaica on as the character too. I'm tired. I was just like, girl, what are you talking about? Like, even your character is from Jamaica. Like, I mean, let's not stereotype. Like, I'm sure there's people in Jamaica that are people that are Jamaican that are just totally against marijuana. But like, it's I thought it was funny. And then she was like, what did she say? She was like, oh, the only substance I do is Jesus' street name Christ. And I was like, girl, what the fuck is you talking about? And then here come Melissa out the blue talking about, girl, you be drinking Pinot Grigio all the fucking time. What are you talking about? And Barbara's like, I really wanted her to be like, well, Jesus turned water into wine, so like, it's okay in the Bible. It's true. Like, I mean, God made the plants, the herbs. And so I just feel like it's fine to take the herbs because God made the herbs. And so you just don't need to take them in excess to where it's inhibiting your ability to function, and you shouldn't be a child taking them because it can fuck up your brain cells and shit, and then you end up with some problems later on in life. But otherwise the herbs are good for you and shit. So anyways, that was this episode. I kind of felt like it was a filler episode, but then I did find some stuff in there that was just like, white people irritate the shit out of me, but I love how you illustrated how they are so irritating and so out of touch and so just in their own airy-fairy place. And then if you try to knock them out of their airy-fairy place, that's when they become these evil monsters that try to hang you from trees and shit because you had the audacity to knock them out of their airy-fairy place. And I just thought that was fucking hilarious. I loved how Janine censored this bitch this whole fucking show. And this woman, it wasn't even... not even a blip on her radar. She really thought this woman was paying attention to her. Now, of course, they're going to probably make it go towards Janine's anxiety and how she censors people of all races and genders and whatever. But no, I want to focus on the whiteness because I felt like it was glaring in this episode and it was just hilarious. And, I'm just going to keep an eye on Jacob. Like, I feel like, okay, you don't have to add the drama, but like, you can't be showing people doing stuff like this and there being no consequences or it not turning into anything and then there being consequences for him, because then people, like especially white folks watching this show, is going to think that they can just go off and air out their fucking friends at work and shit like that, and then you got black bitches getting fired and shit. No, I can't. Like, y'all need to like figure that shit out because you know that that's not legal federally. And you can't be having these conversations in the workplace. Like it's like showing a TV show where somebody black gets pulled over by the police and is acting like aggressive and mean and in the police face like they aren't at risk to get shot, and then the police just being okay with it and they just drive off like that's real life, that actually happens in real life. Okay. It's like, yeah, you have some dummy watching that shit and be like, I could cuss the police out. Like, no, you are 6'5" and a black man. No, that was just a television show, honey. No, you're gonna have some Tariqs out there thinking that's just real and shit. And so you're gonna have some white folks out there whose work friends have confided in them that they do substances, and they're gonna be like aired out at work. And I'm not saying that's gonna be the cause of all of that. I'm just saying, like, you opening up Pandora's box a little bit like a crack, and I didn't like it. I didn't like how they were talking about all the substances that they did in the teacher's lounge at school. Like, no, that's not real life. You can't sit with your boss and talk about substances that you're doing in your personal life. I don't care how much your boss is ghetto, ratchet, friendly, random. You can't do that, because let your boss get mad at you one time. I've heard many a tale of bosses that people being best friends with their boss, and then one time, I have authority over you, because it clicks in, because we're all human and we all want vengeance. Not all of us, but a good portion of us want vengeance when we get mad. And so what do? We say, I have authority over you. I forgot about that. Oh, you don't want to do this thing I asked you to do because you thought we was friends? Okay. Let me write a letter to the district real quick. Right. Just like Jacob, real quick in that moment, he wanted vengeance because Janine called him out about vaping like it's that big of a fucking deal. And and some niggas don't come in here and be like, well, she called him out for, it's vaping. It's nicotine. That's not illegal. That's not going to get him fired. So it's not the same. And everyone in that room knows that, honey. And everyone in that room also knows that marijuana is federally illegal. And that could have got her fucking fired. As of the taping of this video, it's federally illegal. Who knows, in the next few years, hopefully they do make that shit legal. But yeah, you can't work at a federally funded, company, business, whatever, and do and be loud about doing marijuana. You can't. Like, they even, like, I worked for a federally funded company, and they kept telling us that, like, you would get fired immediately. They would tell us the story about one of the workers that, got in a car accident while on the job and had to go to in order to get workers' comp, this worker had to go to their healthcare facility that the job, contracts with, to get tested in order to show that he did deserve workers' comp. And when they, tested his blood for drugs and did all the full scans for everything that they do when you're in that situation, they found out he had marijuana in his system. And guess what? He didn't get workers' comp. That nigga got fired. Because we're federally funded. It don't matter if it's medical. It don't matter, because the company runs the risk of losing their federal funding if they are knowingly hiring people that are doing substances that are federally illegal. So they're going to choose their funding over you, honey. And so that's why I hated that scene. And that's why I hated Jacob the most in that scene. You bitch made motherfucker. You could have got her fired, and you did that shit on purpose just to call her out in front of everybody just because she said you vaped? Because she said you vaped, nigga? Really? Really? Okay. I don't like that man. I don't like that man. I don't like him. I do not like him. I do not like him at all. And if y'all was in that situation and he did that shit to you, you wouldn't like that motherfucker either, because in real life you would have lost a job in an economy where it takes about a year right now to find a new one. And so, yes, he is a piece of shit. I don't know what else to tell y'all. People, I don't know. I don't like him. Every time I think about that, every time I see that motherfucker's face, it's gonna make me start not liking the actor next. I'm not saying he shouldn't be on the show, but that was some dirty work there. That was some fucked up, nasty work he did there. And they ain't clocking that for nothing, because they're all friends until somebody pisses Ava off enough to write a letter to the district because she mad. Oh. One of your district workers does marijuana every night, and yeah, it's a TV show, so we can say like Ava would never do that. Ava's down and stuff like, but we never know who's completely down, and we never know what someone's edge is. When you get pushed off the edge, you never know what someone's edge is. You never know what trigger is going to be big enough to push someone off the edge and say fuck you. And Ava has done shiesty shit. So it's not like, oh, she's like Gregory, where like he's been pretty consistently like regular. No, she's done shiesty shit. So she already has a pattern of being shiesty. So that's her go-to when she feels backed into a corner or when she feels triggered, is to be shiesty and fucked up. And so I wouldn't put it past her to do some shit like that. So, and then this is all being filmed for this like reality television show or whatever. So all this shit is going to go on the television eventually too. So you're saying this in front of cameras. So not only like before they knew the kid was recording, so we're going to block the kid out because that was just, that was extra. But not only did he call that bitch out in front of her fucking boss, he called the bitch out in front of national television. I hate that motherfucker. So even if she did get fired, let's say if this is real life, she get fired, not only would it be hard for her to find a new job, would she be blackballed in the district, but like it's on television now. Other people in other states can see this. So if she wanted to move to a different state to become a teacher it might be harder for her to do so because, we saw that viral video of y'all talking about how you do marijuana and shit. Yeah, we don't want to lose our funding. We can't, like, are you willing to stop? Like, even still, like, we can't trust that. We can't hire you, right? Ain't nobody clocking shit. I'm tired. Anyways, that was my review of Abbott Elementary. Like I said, I feel like it was just like kind of like a filler episode. It didn't really go along with what is the plot for this season. It's just kind of been like, it's like no like straight plot. It's like, oh, she's at the district. Like there's no drama. Like their little like they're friends now. Like their little relationship, maybe will they, won't they? They're friends now. Like we're in a. So like, I mean, like what's the plot? I mean, it's still early on though. Like the season has like 20 something episodes, so you got to fill it in with some random stories and stuff. So I won't even say nothing. Like she's at the district. That was the start of the plot. And how she handles that this season. So I'm guessing that's a part of the plot, and then they're going to add more things. I still think Manny's going to turn out to be the fucking devil. But you know what? I can't even be mad at Manny as I can't even be as mad at Manny as I am at Jacob, because Manny hasn't actually done anything. He just gives weird fucking vibes. And you know, I'm trying to like, cause like, you know, Michael the librarian, like he's this dude on TikTok that be talking about books and shit, and he just be in the library trying to encourage people to bring their kids to the library and all this. So some random bitch on Twitter go and watch his videos and be like, he has dark energy and evil energy and all this, and he ain't done nan thing to nobody. I never thought he had that type of energy. I was just like, oh, look at this nice little man on here, you know, doing stuff and things. And like, you could tell like maybe he got some mental health stuff going on or whatever, but it's like, you know, he chilling, he like books and shit. And then now he's quit his job. Like he got signed for PBS and stuff, but like still the fact that he had to go and make a video about how he has mental health issues and how like he's been working on himself, he has depression and all this other stuff and PTSD, and he had to make a video saying that, and then he had to make another video saying that he's quitting on March 1st at the library. I mean, he is supposed to be going on PBS, so that's good. I'm glad. But like that really made me think about like, should I be placing this veil of evil around Manny? Did he really, when we got Jacob over here snitching on bitches in front of everybody, should I really be placing a veil of evil on somebody? See, growth, learning. Should I really be placing a veil of evil on somebody who literally has done nothing to harm anybody yet? Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I still don't like Manny. Something's off. He's a television kid. He's not a real person. Like when you look at Michael, you can tell like he has variations in his emotions and shit. Like he's like, you can tell like he has variations in his emotion. He's a real person and he's just nice and shit. Like that's just who he is. He's a nice person and stuff like that. Like I can believe that nigga's nice because he has other emotions besides nice, and he shows other emotions besides nice. And that's a real person. And so I don't know that nigga, but like this is a character made up for a television show, so you don't know what type of personality they're gonna apply to this nigga. So I'm just gonna hold. I'm gonna hold, because I still have a feeling, but I'm gonna put that feeling in a box. And I'm gonna put that box in a filing cabinet marked under niggas I be having feelings about. We're just going to keep an eye on that feeling. And if at any point we need to pull that box out that filing cabinet because there has been evidence to say that that feeling is right, will it always be there? I don't have to act on it. I don't have to acknowledge it. I can just leave it there. But then if he does turn, I don't have to be surprised because that feeling was always there. I always kind of knew that nigga was evil, but I didn't want to act on it or say anything or do nothing. So, but if he turns out to be a decent human being throughout this whole seasons of 20 something episodes, then, you know, I was misinformed. I'm not going to say wrong. I'm not wrong. I was misinformed. It's okay to be misinformed sometimes. I don't feel misinformed. But, you know, it turns out I am misinformed, you know, because I misinformed myself. So, you know, it's not wrong. There was a miscommunication with myself. That's all that is. Oh my gosh, my future husband I'm gonna drive that nigga crazy. He's gonna be like, you're wrong, and I'm gonna be like, I'm not wrong. I was just misinformed. There was a miscommunication with myself. He's going to be like, I need to take some air. You do that. You take air. Air is good, isn't it not? Mm-hmm. Oh, I love me. I'm so interesting. See, that's how I want y'all to feel about yourselves. Pull out all that interesting shit and just keep sharpening the blade on every interesting thing that you have until it's so refined and perfect and unique that you just become your own entity separate from everybody else. No matter what people say, like, oh, all this, no. I am my own entity that I have sharpened and refined over time. And there's still more. I don't even know how sharpened I can get. I can just keep evolving and growing until finally you're dead, and then you evolve like a Pokemon into like some afterlife being that is like glorious and amazing. But that's not for a long time. You know, I always had this theory that like, because God be taking like the really, really good people, like the really nice people. We're just like, why is he taking them so young and he's so nice? There's a whole Trump over there. I be thinking God be trying to give y'all chances and shit. Just giving us chances to be better. Like even the most evilest of us. So that's why they be getting all old and raggedy in this hateful ass world. And they don't get to be in perfection and everything. But he'll take the young ones that are ready. That have evolved to the point where they're ready. And some of them have evolved to that point very young, and some of them very old, and some of them in the middle. And I just realized that I'm not ready to evolve to that point of death. So, little sprinkle of evil in there. little sprinkles and dots of sociopathy, you know, little sprinkle of some fucked up shit, you know, just so that, you know, I can get to the perfect consistency of, you know, staying here long enough to get old. Because I got shit I want to do. I don't get married. I don't have kids. You ain't taking me yet. I want to raise the kids. I want to see them evolve like Pokemons into things and stuff and do magical things in the world and just be like, wow, look at that. My child is out here doing like amazing shit in the world and stuff. Look at them just evolving and changing. Magical to see, magical to experience, magical to be in their presence. It's wonderful. And I will not miss out on that. So, you know, you just have to have a good consistency. Not enough to hurt nobody or yourself, but just enough to just, you know, occasionally throw a sin in there like once a year. Like, oh no, see God, I sinned. I'm not ready. You know, I was glutton. I overate because it made me feel good. And so that's wrong. So obviously, I'm not ready for the deaths. I still have more learnings and evolvings to do. Obviously, you know, and I know you can't finesse God, and he probably looking at me like I'm fucking crazy. Like, bitch, you want me to take you now? This is a conversation I be having with myself. Walking around the house and shit, and my cat just be looking at me. She just be like, this is the bitch that brought me home. Not some nice, friendly white woman that, you know, white people love domesticated creatures and stuff. That's why ever since slavery, and you know, now it's the AIs. They're going to be the domesticated creatures. But yeah, you know, you look at me like, why didn't some nice old white woman pick me up, then overfeed me until I was fat and gross and sick and let me sit in her lap and while I pet her? That's why some nice old white woman didn't do that, honey, because that would have killed you. So you belong here with me. Yes. But anyways, let me end this because I need to. This was my review of Abbott Elementary season 3 episode 4, Smoking. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you laughed. I don't think you cried. Like, what? There's nothing really to cry about. I don't know. You know, some of that psychological shit I be saying be touching people, and it might trigger some shit. Like, oh, that's what my parents did to me. Oh, and then, you know, so I still don't hope you cry. Like, what? But if you do, crying is good. It's like releasing shit and stuff. So do that if you need to. But, you know, I hope that you were enlightened and it helped you in your furthering of your evolution of yourself and refining who you are as individual entities of growth and change and magicalness. So that's it. Later days.